So we call our meeting to order, 6:30 p.m. And we have one addition to the agenda, is that correct?
Correct. We received late this afternoon an expression of interest from Bryson Knight in the town health officer position.
Where do we want to add that?
And I suggested that he'll be zooming in.
I would say 2A. Yeah. Okay. Right?
Yeah, Bryson.
Okay.
All righty, well, thanks everyone for joining. Thanks for joining online. Just a reminder to please mute yourself. And if you'd like to speak, please be sure that you are first recognized by myself or someone else here in the room. Thanks so much. Same here in the room. If you're looking to speak, just raise your hand. One of us will call on you. Let's see. Round table? Public forum. There we go. Sorry. Public forum. Jim.
Not for nothing, but if this school board gets the approval by Barbara's building, that'd be a good idea for them to give the police department free rent. It saves taxpayers a lot of money, and it's the least they could do for high taxes we're paying. Not the use would like that, but that's all anyway.
Thanks, Jim.
I guess I'll add my comment would be that too. I think you should approach the MAUHS Supervisor Union Board.
Not a bad idea.
Yeah, because I think in their report, they said that buying the building with the revenue from the renters that
Makes
they
it
would be
reasonable, yeah.
Yeah.
Not that I don't disagree with you, but.
Anyone else for public forum? Not seeing any. All right, moving on, the annual police district meeting, public information meeting.
So posted online were the warning for the annual meeting, the police department report in the annual report, their budget and their capital vehicle replacement plan and a sample ballot. So that is all available.
Bruce, anything you wanna?
Here to answer questions.
You're here to answer questions. Anyone have questions for Bruce this evening?
Just to quickly touch on the budget, the proposed budget is up 4.6%.
Bruce, I should know, I'll ask a question. I should know this, but apologize, I don't. You might have said it in a previous meeting, but I know we have 3 full-time, right? Plus,
Yes, currently we have 3 full-time.
and how are we doing? I know we put in for a cops grant and you've been advertising, but I haven't seen it. How are we done on recruiting?
So we've, now that you've approved the pay increase in the past couple of years, we started to get more interest. So, but we haven't got a candidate to ask for hire yet.
And when does the Cox grant run out, or run
I
its
think
course?
2026 or something.
That sounds right.
We have to, if we're going to use it, we have to use it by 2026.
By the end of 2026?
End of 2026.
all of the money.
All the money.
So,
And my fingers crossed.
A higher during,
24, 25, 26.
okay.
So I'm thinking, Bruce, for those who may be joining us, they aren't familiar with what a COPS grant is. Could you just give a brief overview of what that means?
It is a grant that we applied for and were awarded $125,000 to be used for the new position. So that would be a 4th full-time position. And we can draw down the money whichever way we want, as long as we do it within that time frame.
Thank you.
Is there any update on the community resource specialist position?
We've had one inquiry so far,
Has it been advertised yet?
not yet. I haven't had a chance to do that.
Let me know how I can help.
Any other questions for folks online? That are looking to join us this evening? Any questions for Chief Nason? Not seeing any.
Saving them all for Monday night.
Save them for Monday night. So that's that. All right. We'll call that part of the meeting closed. So we'll move on to department head roundtable. This is an opportunity for department heads to give us a 5-minute review of what's going on in their departments. Why don't we start with Sharon?
Okay, as everyone knows, election is next week. Town meeting is Monday night, March 4th. Election is Tuesday, March 5th from 7 AM to 7 PM. That's the big push for this week.
How are you doing for volunteers for that?
I'm
For
lacking for
voting.
volunteers in the afternoon at the moment.
That's because I just changed from afternoon to morning.
Well, I was anyway, so I think
Afternoon's
morning's
2 to
pretty
6.
well good, but
Yeah, when it starts at 2 or 3 or whatever.
whatever, usually we
I could
do
do-
one
I could probably do-
1:15. If you could do later, I have Dan Lyons coming in later, which is good, because then he can help with cleanup and counting and stuff, so.
I'll call you tomorrow.
Okay, yeah, just let me know when you
Like
can come in, 'cause
2:33.
because some of the morning volunteers will stay a little longer if they know somebody's coming in to take their place.
I can do afternoon along with Hannaford if need be.
Okay, yeah,
You
could
just
be a
need to
good
let me
ballot
know.
box.
Yep.
Or
Okay.
handing them out.
Okay, and we have ballots, so if people are coming in early to vote, they can.
They can, we've had probably 65 ballots that we've either mailed out
Okay.
or they've come in to get. And I've only got maybe 15 of them back so far.
And what's the deadline if you're doing early, whether it's mailed or picked up? What's the deadline for that? Can you drop it on the day? Does it have to be the day before?
If you could drop it off the day before, it's good, but they can bring it to
Town?
the voting
Okay.
place and turn it in there if they want,
Okay, and
which some people do.
dropping off can be at the lock
Not
box?
on the day of election, I have to lock the box.
No, but before that,
Before
they can
that,
use
they put it in
outside.
the drop box.
yeah, the offices don't have to be open. You
Nope.
can drop there. Okay,
No, in fact, there was probably 7 or 8 in there this morning.
great. The town reports are done. And we have printed
Yep.
copies here, and we also have it available on the town website in various places, which is searchable and
We have them at the library too. We tried
Yeah.
the post office, but there's new people over there and they said no, because technically that means they're losing postage if we're just putting them in the lobby to take for free. So last year they let us, but we've got different people over there now, so
Hmm.
all right, so the town office is the library, but not the post office.
not the post
Okay,
office.
You mean-
Raise their taxes.
Okay, who else? Bruce, you're up next. Anything you want to add from what you just said?
Nothing.
It's all good. Bristol is awesome.
We're busy.
Bristol is not so
Bristol
awesome.
is great. We're busy.
Gotcha. Is there anybody online?
I have an update from Brett. He just
Okay.
emailed and he's unable to attend this evening. So he has 2 updates for the select board. Naylor and Breen will be on site at the fire station tomorrow to size up the repairs that need to be made that resulted from the 2 recent high wind events. Per Craig Jennings, Naylor and Breen should be on site 3/1, March 1st, sorry, to do their repair work. And BFD has a prospective candidate, has the candidate's application in hand, performing background checks. And then he's gonna be in touch in terms of that interview.
Awesome.
Thank you,
There
Brad.
Sure.
Anyone, there's nobody on, I don't see anybody up there. Everybody's on vacation.
Yeah.
All right, that was a quick roundtable this time. All right, moving on. Regular business. Consider Development Review Board candidate Rebecca Cole to fill a vacant seat that will run to March 2024 and March 2026. May include deliberation and executive session.
Oh, hi.
Rebecca Cole is me.
Okay,
I just wanted to show up in
Sure.
case you guys had any questions.
Sure.
okay, come on up if you.
Yeah.
Coming up.
Oh, boy.
For a grilling.
Yes.
Okay.
There's actually just to clarify that agenda language, there's an existing alternate position that's always 1 year, and that's till 2024. And then there's a 3-year term that is expiring. It's a vacancy right now, due in March, so next month, just a few short days. And so that would be a 3-year term then going to 2027.
27, not 26.
Yeah, that's what I was
Yeah,
gonna
yeah,
ask.
so that's
Okay.
to be corrected.
So tell us about yourself. What makes you interested in this position?
My husband and I and my daughter, we actually moved here a couple years ago. And we're currently building a place down 116. And we're very passionate about helping find a way to kind of fix some of the housing problems we have, but also maintaining the same feel that we, love about the area. So I saw that there was a lot of positions open on it, and I know the more people you have on a board, the better your results will be. So I just wanted to help out.
Great.
Do you have any background in any?
In development, not as much. I've been a software project manager for several years, so I'm very good at working very logically, following rules, finding ways to fit within rules. And I did serve on a board for a nonprofit for, I think it was 4 or 5 years, both as a general board member and as a secretary.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Rebecca?
Have you attended any of the previous DRB meetings or read minutes, things like that?
I have not.
Okay.
I've read the
available.
agendas, I
Yeah.
haven't gone through the minutes.
If you're interested, you can look on the town website. All the previous minutes are on there, as well as videos to different sessions and stuff like that. So,
I'll definitely do that.
yeah, it's a useful thing to be able to sort of look back and see. And obviously, it's with the DRB versus Planning Commission, they're addressing certain, particular agenda items in terms of land parcels or whatever, versus working on policies and things like that, which is what Planning Commission does.
Yeah, I saw that this one was more towards changes to zoning, stuff like that. It seemed like subdivisions.
Well, it's sort of the DRB handles individual cases, whereas the Planning Commission is sort of more what you described in terms of changes to zoning. That's sort of more policy,
Okay.
right?
Right.
It's to make sure that if the DRB does the review, if you are not a by right use. So if you're asking for something that's not the norm, then they go through. And I think that's the way I took what she said as far as going through the procedure.
Oh, right, that's true. In terms of looking at a particular case, yes.
Yeah, that was my understanding.
Knowing you're building a house and a young child and James, do you have a preference and said, boy, I'd like to just barely get my feet wet and try that 1 year, and if it's not for me, I'm not committed, or do you have a real preference?
I think I don't mind taking the longer term. This year is gonna be the busiest time for me. After this, things will calm down because we'll get the house built, and so as long as I can make it work this year, I'll be able to make it work for years.
Did you hear that, Jimmy? You won't get the house built this year?
Right, and obviously, it's, it can be sometimes twice a month, but usually it's maybe once a month. Sometimes it isn't a meeting in a month, depending on what projects are happening and what needs to be reviewed. So it is a varying schedule. So that's good to know.
So you would like the permanent, not the alternate position, I think is what Joel was
Yeah.
getting.
Yes.
Nice.
Okay.
Michelle, did you have anything you wanted to ask? Okay, wanted to give you the opportunity. All right, I don't think we have any.
I think we have a warm body. I'll make a motion
Just gonna
to
say.
accept
Let's give her that 3 year.
Rebecca's application to the zoning review board.
I will second that, yeah.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Michelle, how'd you do? Michelle, thumbs up?
She gave us a
Oh,
thumbs up.
did she?
Yeah.
Oh, what'd she do to her? Yeah, her thumb there.
Surgery.
So, okay.
All
All
right.
right, you're in.
Yeah.
3 years. You
Congratulations.
said it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you
Send us
for,
your letter.
Yeah.
thank you for being interested. in
Yes,
helping
thank
out.
you. All right, so we said we would put Bryson on in here. Is he
Yeah,
on?
second.
Well, he would follow number
Right.
2.
Oh, sorry, follow.
2A.
You're right. Sorry, I'm jumping ahead. So consider town health officer candidate Greg West for a 3-year term, appointed by the Vermont Health Department. May include some deliberation in executive session. So Greg.
Hello,
Hi there.
Good evening.
good evening.
Good evening.
Hi.
Can you tell us,
Been a little sick.
hi, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're interested in this town health officer position?
I've been a builder in town for a long time. And honestly, I've, always kind of been looking for a way to be able to help, help the town. Just be, work and be better. I'm sorry. I just saw this opportunity and thought I'd try to put in my expertise, with building and knowing what's structurally sound and what should and shouldn't be. And
Greg,
Okay.
questions for Greg?
So you, this is Valerie. Through email, you mentioned that, you confirmed that you're now, living in Salisbury.
yes,
So how far, how long does it take to get from Salisbury to Bristol?
15 minutes.
15 minutes? Okay, well, that's great.
How long, Peter?
That's a half an hour drive all day.
It's a 40-minute drive from my
It's a
house.
half an hour all day.
You're on this end, you're on this end of Salisbury, aren't you, Greg? You're on.
yeah.
Upper Plains.
I'm close.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm close.
By East Middlebury.
Yeah, he's right, he's 25
Right,
in
not
East
far.
You
Middlebury.
can't make Middlebury less than 20 minutes.
I can make it in 10, if I know where Bruce is.
I
That's what he's doing right now.
Okay, yes. Okay.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
thanks. Any other questions from any board members for Bruce, not for Bruce, for Greg? All right, I guess that's all we have for you this evening, unless there's anything else you'd like us to know, Greg.
No, just thank you for your consideration.
Thank you.
Hope you feel better.
Yes, hope you feel
Yeah, you
better.
sound,
Thank you.
sound sick.
Okay, so our second person who's interested in this position is Bryson. Is Bryson on?
Hey,
There
yeah,
he
Mom.
is. Hi there.
Oh,
So we got your email that you're interested in this town health officer position. Bryson, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're interested in this position, please?
yeah. So I grew up in Bristol and I always liked finding a good way to give back to the community. I have a little bit of contracting experience in my past, and kind of hearing about the position sounds like it has a lot to do with public communication, which I am also pretty versed in. I have a degree in communication as well. So I think it's a good little combo of a skill set there. And again, grew up in Bristol. I also don't live in Bristol at the moment. I have an apartment in Winooski, but I am often in Bristol. I work in Bristol, and I'm planning to move back to Bristol in the future. So, yeah.
Questions for Bryson?
In terms of the travel time, you asked Greg that same question.
Right.
Do we have data in terms of, is it sometimes an immediate thing in terms of a health officer dealing with a particular problem, and so travel time might be an issue, or?
Not to my knowledge.
Oh,
Okay.
I was gonna say travel time wouldn't be an issue to me as I'm only up in Winooski. It's about 45 minutes, and I am often
Bigger
in
and
Bristol.
going
I think was the question too,
Yeah.
Valerie, not me.
Okay. No, that's sort of both of you, but I was kind of looking at Val, but yeah, I was just
Oh, okay.
curious.
No,
So-
it's a fair question.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess I was thinking along the lines of accessibility
Okay,
generally.
okay,
And in my time, I don't know that we've had situations where an urgent response was needed.
right, that's what I was curious. Okay.
Right, but that's not to say that something might not come up. I just, you know, the town health officer might be called to step in on some, some urgent situations. I just don't, it's hard to predict.
Okay.
Yeah.
Val, do you have data in terms of the amount of calls per year or issues that a town health officer might have to deal with?
I don't know that we get that information. I sometimes
okay.
hear about it from sideways,
Yeah,
but not directly. I do receive copies of dog bite reports that the town health officer is required to provide. So there's that level of accessibility. Oftentimes, it can vary from month to month, from year to year. So there might be some years where there's almost nothing going on, but then another year, the next year could be several hot topics come up.
okay,
Most often, I think the types of things that the town health officer has been asked to deal with are hoarding issues and concerns. Neighbors call and ask for the town health officer to investigate piles of trash that people are concerned might be attracting disease or rodents or things like that. And in those instances, or in any other situation, or like mold, the law was changed very recently, effective in January, where town health officers are no longer expected to do rental inspections for things like mold. And now that has been given back to the state. So that's, I think there was a lot of that type of activity in the past. And if the town health officer sees or investigates the situation and feels that some sort of enforcement or follow-up is necessary, the select board is the Board of Health. And so it's the town health officer's responsibility to make a recommendation or to bring to the Board of Health a recommendation for some sort of order, a health order.
Okay.
But those are, I don't think it's ever happened in the last 6 or 7 years that I'm aware of. But never know.
I think though, I mean, Greg alluded to it a little bit, if Greg, you're still on, and then Bryson, they both said about building, and it really has, I think, maybe I'm dead wrong, but I think it has a lot also to do with the health. That's why it's called the health officer. I mean, Diane Cushman was a registered nurse for many years and did it. More years registered nurse as a health officer, our health officer. David Henderson, Dr. Henderson. And I think before him, Peter, you can refresh my memory, when we were in high school, I think with Dr. Brown. So you always had that medical person that was the health officer. You walk in going, you walk into a home that maybe it's structurally sound. They both mentioned structure.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't think the health officer has a lot to do with structural, it's more with conditions.
You know, and said, this place isn't not so much safe. It's not safe, it's gonna fall in. It's not
Right.
safe because
Or a
there's
failed septic system.
failed septic system or
Yeah.
mice all around, or droppings of mice, you know, that's the health part of it. And I haven't seen that yet on any of the interviews.
Okay.
So that's a concern I have.
Bruce, is there occasion where the town health officer might work with the police department?
And the only time that we have is the dog complaints.
Okay. Okay,
Okay.
All right, well, thank you, Bryson, and thank you, Greg.
thank you both.
So I should say, we'll get back to them.
Yeah.
So do you want to deliberate later?
We'll deliberate
Yeah.
later.
Okay. All right.
just to give them a timeline.
Okay.
All right, item number 3, consider Vermont Paddlers Club Eagle Park and Bartlett's Falls use application for annual one-day kayak event, Saturday, April 6th, 2024, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m.
I so move it they let Bruce know and they put us on the rider's insurance.
Second.
All those in favor?
Just a quick question. Do they have an alternative date? Usually we get one date and then like a rain date, and I didn't see that in your notes, Val.
I'm Jordan Vickers. I was part of that emailing you guys and part of organizing that. We do have the following Saturday is the rain date.
Okay. So do you need to put that in the motion, you guys, to make sure that the permit continues
Sure, I
on
make
for
a
the rain
motion.
date as well?
That we let Vermont Paddlers Club use Eagle Park and the Falls, Bartlett Falls for their race, one-day kayak event on April 6th with a rain date of April 13th, both times being 8 a.m. to 6 p.m.
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
I don't see anyone opposed. Thanks, it's a great event. It's always
Yeah.
exciting to see the photos, so.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Alrighty, moving right along. Review and approval of use value assessment forest conservation plan for the town of Bristol's Seth Hill Waterworks in Lincoln.
And I believe David Bryn is on the Zoom. Or was.
Yes, I'm here. But I'm in the dark. Let's see here. Well, that's not Can any you, better, can you Dave. still hear me?
We'll take the dark one.
David, what can you tell us about this use plan, use value assessment?
Okay, so it's, the land's enrolled in the state's current use program, which is an amazing program. And every 10 years, enrollees have to update their management plan. And it's been 10 years since it was last done. And so I was able to go up and enjoy several afternoons of inventorying a spectacular place. And I just want to congratulate Bristol for having such an amazing place up in the mountains and taking such great care of it. Don Gale is doing an incredible job with sugaring, and the place is really spectacular, has an amazing history, and it's really an honor to be able to spend some time looking at it. And one of the things to stay in compliance with use value is you need to keep your forests so that they're productive and the stocking levels are appropriate, not overstocked, not understocked. And so part of the inventory process is to go through and see what the stocking is. And there are 7 different areas, and they're all reasonably stocked. There's one little tiny place that's a little bit overstocked, but hard to get to, and they're growing. It's growing like weeds, and there's a lot of diversity. There's old moose sign. There's deer sign. It's really remarkably productive. And so, what I noted was that, and it's not horrendous by any stretch of the imagination, but it's steep up there. And with gully washing storm events that we're getting, it could use some additional erosion control. That's the main thing. And just in key places, not everywhere, and not making a big thing about it, but just going in with a small tracked excavator and popping in some water bars in steeper spots. And we may reach out to the Forest Service to because some of their truck roads are kind of in need of it. And but generally things have held up pretty well with all the storm events it's gotten. But the gist of the management plan is to do some erosion control. And I think it continues on with the same basic ownership objectives that you've had, and it builds on the legacy of the place, and that's the focus. And it doesn't limit what you might do with it for recreational uses in the future if you wanted to, or historic acknowledgement up there. But it is I think it's a solid plan. I don't think it's onerous. And I think what it'll do is it'll help to slow, spread, and sink storm flows in the mountains. And it'll be a good example of some of the additional practices that we probably should do across Vermont in order to withstand some of these storm events that we're getting.
Is this all work that the grant we received is gonna cover, or is this something we need to do in addition?
No, this is something that the grant you will receive cover. We presented it to the Addison County Regional Planning Commission. DEC has this water quality thing, and they're the local agent is Addison County Regional Planning. And people really were excited about it, and it's unique. And we're hoping to be able to, with that grant, not only do the bit of erosion control, but also interpret it and show people how, you know, what's being done, why it's being done, and make it an educational opportunity to show some good work in an upland watershed. You know, it's amazing. I'll say one other thing that's amazing to me is how important that water was to Bristol from 1905 on. I mean, it's a 4-inch pipe that watered Bristol for all those years, and it's a spectacularly beautiful water quality system up there, and it's just really neat. And so anyway.
Cool. Did you have a question, Joel?
No.
No. David, can you give an example of what some of that erosion control might look like?
Yeah. So on areas where it's steep, and some of the old roads date back to the old original clearings, you know, back into, you know, the early days, back in the early 1800s. And they went pretty much straight up the hill. And those places where the grade is like 30%, 35%, there are some water bars scattered up through there. What we would do is focus the effort on the steeper sections where a little bit of additional erosion control and getting the water off the road more frequently will give the forest more opportunity to be the sponge that it wants to be, rather than carrying the water quite so far. And we'll do it with a small tract excavator. We've done a few of these in the recent past, and there's little under dry summer conditions, and there's little or no disturbance in between putting in these structures. But the little structures, and it's just with the soil that's on site, we just dig them down deep enough and put them at an angle and make it so that something that just kind of maintains itself over time. And hopefully we'll just allow the water to come off the uplands down toward the lowlands a little more slowly than it does without this sort of thing.
Thanks, David.
Thank you, David.
David, you mentioned the potentials. You said if the town ever wanted to use it for recreational, what do you have ideas for that? I mean, would you have suggestions? I haven't seen the property, so I'm not familiar with it.
Yeah, you know, it is steep, and much of it is a riparian zone, and those areas are kind of wet and whatnot. But a really, I mean, in terms of just history, just going up and experiencing what a small town did up in the mountains of an adjacent town to provide water for the municipality, and just to look at it, it's impressive. It's just sort of from a historic perspective. In terms of other types of recreation, you know, something that's not a vehicle or track, too much of a track, you need to be careful, because it is steep and it is erosive, but there are opportunities to put in some trails that would be enjoyable, stable, low need of maintenance, because they're relatively flat, and there's some of those that already exist. It'd be about trying to maybe connect some of those. But that would be a step that could happen. But what I'm proposing right now is that we just focus on the erosion control, and if there is an interest, then you can come up and check it out.
You had mentioned that, so I was just curious. But thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Dave.
Any questions for David?
So David, it's my understanding that the front page needs a signature. There's only 2 or 3 lines, so I don't think all 5 select board members can sign it. So does it make sense for the select board to authorize me to sign it on their behalf?
I think that'd be excellent, and I'm sure that would be fine for the state.
Do we need a motion for that?
So moved.
Second,
All right, all those in favor of Valerie signing that document on behalf of the board,
Assuming the board approves it.
assuming the board approves it? Oh, okay, do we approve it?
Well, I mean, David's right. Every 10 years, you've got to update your current use plan with the state anyway, so this is all part of it.
Right,
This is the big part of it.
so do we need a motion to approve first before we make a motion to sign?
Or approve and assign.
Approve and.
Yeah,
that's what
that was-
Peter's
that was
motion was.
Peter's motion. I seconded it.
Keeper's intended motion was to approve and authorize Valerie to sign. So all those in favor of that,
Aye.
All right.
thank you very much. Thank you, David.
Thank you, David.
Thank you, David.
Thank you, David.
Thank you very much.
All right. Item number 5, preparations, logistics, and other details for the in-person March 4th annual police district and town meeting with moderator Jennifer Wagner.
Ta-da.
Come on up.
There you are.
You
I thought she
want
snuck
to come up to the table? Thanks for joining us.
Right in here.
Hello, everybody.
Hello there.
Evening.
Okay,
Where to start?
what do you need from us?
Right, well, I'm curious, from your point of view of the various warnings, are there any that you think might really elicit a lot of conversation from the town?
Every single one.
Yeah, that's true.
Every single one should, but they
That's
won't.
true.
They really should. I
Yeah.
quite agree with you. Somebody will always pick up on something in the budget or some interesting factor. I thought Article 21 about moving all of our civic organizations and social
think that'll
services
draw.
off to the Australian.
I think
Valley.
that'll draw.
I think that's gonna draw a lot of conversation. But
I mean, we've done that, or had done that before last year because of COVID,
right,
and it was fairly successful. It's nice because you got a lot of interesting data on how people are voting for individual organizations. And so we didn't ask the question at last year's meeting, but wanted to put it on for this year. And a lot of towns, surrounding towns, do already use Australian ballot for appropriations.
well, if that article passes, it'll make our town meeting even shorter,
Right?
quite a bit.
And I think 23, buying the land,
For that
I
one.
think that will, people will ask, okay, what's the timeline for, you know?
In the
Probably.
budget, they'll be interested in.
Yeah, so are there gonna be
How many
people
is
present
that?
who can answer these questions about?
No, you're on.
That's your
Yeah,
job.
that's up to
We're going for a break on that one.
I am
It'll
curious.
just be our photo.
We're gonna have a stick up there. with our picture.
Yeah,
Leave me high
we're,
and dry, Joel, no.
we're happy to answer questions. Obviously, the select board has been having discussions regarding the land prior to publicly announcing it, but I'm sure we can answer any questions that the public might have with regard to this purchase.
With regard to the purchase, yes.
Yes.
The Edison Independent will be doing a story, probably in Thursday's issue on this article, and I'll be providing Maren a lot of background about the project and what led us to this point and the need and all of that stuff.
Good, we can draw on that article.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's great. Are there any legislators who've stepped forward and said they want to speak at the beginning of town meeting? Anybody heard from anyone
We usually don't know until.
They
Yeah.
show up,
They show
yeah.
up.
in the last minute? Okay.
Yeah,
I'm assuming Chris Spray would be here because he lives here, but
Right.
we don't know that for sure.
but he's also there traveling around to
Yeah.
other towns.
That's true.
Has anyone reached out to you about that?
I've heard nothing from any of them.
Okay,
All right, we'll just wait and see who shows up then. And as usual, I'll ask the legislators to speak first and
Yeah.
briefly as well.
And because some of them might not be residents of the town.
Of
we
course,
need to
I
get the
always get
Permission.
permission by that very special moderator trick of, if I hear no objection,
There you
There you
go.
which also counts for you, Valerie, and also for Sharon back there. Otherwise, is there anybody else you know of who would be speaking who is not a town resident that I need to pay attention to for that?
None that comes to mind.
When it comes to mind.
Okay, very good. Cecil Foster will be doing the refreshments again? Is that what I saw in an email?
Yeah, the
Right.
Masonic Clause.
Masonic Lodge, okay, the Masonic Lodge.
Headed up by.
It's like-
have you reached out to him? Have you connected with him?
I have.
Okay.
Yeah.
You may want to do that.
Noted. All right, I'll reach out to him. I can find my email.
Just to
number.
confirm, it was in the past, our previous moderator had worked with him on those arrangements. He reached out to Sharon this year, which is very kind of him. But yeah, I would suggest touching base with him, and I emailed you his contact information.
Yeah, you did. I'm sure I can find it. I will look.
Do you want?
Just,
Yeah, sure.
Jennifer, you also moderate the police district meeting or is it not? No,
No,
you don't
Yeah.
moderate
No,
that. I
that's
don't think so. We
just-
handle that
Yeah.
one.
yeah, yeah. I'll be lurking in the wings, but I don't. You moderate that one.
You'll be looking for your lurking.
And I can touch base with NEAT to see how they're gonna cover the event in terms of
Microphones.
streaming and microphones and things like that.
That's right, and one of the interesting technical features will be the Zoom again.
Right.
And moderating the Zoom traffic and input and feedback.
So
from
I think
Zoomers.
last year you did that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do we have, better term, Boy Scouts lined up to run the mics around?
I think last year they were just positioned on stands.
And we asked people to
you
come up
came
to
that. Okay.
I think we had multiples, but I'll reach out to Sean and Nate.
I think that works better than running mics around,
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah, people's good. I mean,
I hope it does. You know, sometimes people want, "Well, I don't want to go
Yeah.
up and get there.
Hmm.
I think it's okay, but if we had a mic up front or two and maybe
think
one
they had-
halfway back.
Yeah, I think that's the way they set it up last
Yeah.
time, as I recall. And I can bring my laptop and help with
Yeah.
monitoring the
Yeah,
chat.
we had some questions last year, but.
Yeah.
not
I
a
think
tremendous
Peter, you
amount.
zoomed in last year because you had COVID, right? Was that last year or the year before?
No, I was here.
I'm making that up. Maybe I was. No, I was just off surgery. That's how I remember it. That's right.
Same, are gonna set up on the stage again, or gonna set up below the stage?
On stage.
On stage, okay. Speaker lectern for me, Sharon's taking minutes, same as before, okay. Very good. I'll show up early for mic check, so I'll show up before the police district meeting.
Yeah.
If it's preferred time, you want me to show up for mic check? Anybody? 6?
6 or 6:15, probably. I mean, it
Yeah.
should be all set up by then.
So now that the school doesn't so-called get involved, we have our little break and we go up back and they come up on the stage. Obviously, the buzzword in all of Vermont is the education tax going up 20%. And then they voted last week to do something and they could suspend their school vote. And I don't know if Mount Abe's doing that and we don't have any control over that, but when people ask those questions, are we gonna have at least somebody in the audience? I hope some school directors that could, or where does that fit? Or does it
It
fit?
doesn't.
I don't know.
Does it
if
really
it's
fit in
this
here?
meeting.
I mean, I think
Does it
Meeting
fit
on
under the
the
first one
27th.
Right.
to hear the reports of the town officers?
Is the school a town office?
No, I don't think
I
so.
don't think it
I don't
is.
think so.
Yeah.
So I think
I mean,
if we have a question like that, we have to direct them back to the school board.
You know, when,
Which they should be answered on the 27th. That's their meeting.
Right.
That's.
right.
Yeah.
Which is tomorrow night
Yeah.
at Mount Abe. And no one will go because they'll all be in the gymnasium because the girls are in the playoffs, so.
Yeah.
Or they'll be at the library listening to
The
the
two
select board candidates.
candidates, yes.
You know, a lot going on.
Yes, yeah.
I mean, I just think, I hope they'll, if there's school directors listening in, I hope you're in the audience and, because people are going to ask and you're a big chunk of that tax bill.
Right.
But that's nothing.
I guess it's nothing to us.
Yeah.
Nothing to
do with
us.
Yeah.
It is something to us, but it's
Right.
nothing to do with our budget.
Or that
And
we have
that's-
any jurisdiction.
And that's
Right.
what our
No.
meeting is.
Is our budget.
Yeah, I think 6:15 is fine. We might be in. We had a very brief select board meeting last year.
In
and then-
between.
In between. Well, no, we had one here
Before.
and then we did the police district one and then we went into the meeting. So I don't know if we'll be down here. We'll see what happens, but 6:15, I think is fine.
All right, now, in the past, the police district meeting took place on the floor upstairs,
Correct.
but with tables.
Yeah.
And not on the stage, so
Right.
it was a
Yeah.
more
Yeah, we had a
intimate
couple of wireless
arrangement.
mics and then we just, those moved to a different position.
And that was filmed by Dee. So-
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is there anything with,
Just a reminder with Zoom, folks can't vote via Zoom, correct?
correct.
Okay.
Yeah,
But
they
they
can,
can-
they can ask questions.
they can ask questions,
We can
but they
answer
can't
those
vote.
questions, but they can't officially vote.
They also cannot make amendments either, I would say.
Correct.
Yeah, can't do that. Anything else the select board wants to make sure, or anybody wants to make sure the moderator is doing, says, shares, doesn't say?
A few jokes,
Yeah, yeah.
couple of anecdotes and,
Excellent. Well, you know, the thing I love most
song.
about town meeting last year was at the very end, when people got up and just started sharing stories about, it was George Smith, it was wonderful.
Yeah.
And I would love to find a way to encourage that spontaneous, it's community building,
Right.
to talk about fond members of the community and share stories about them.
well, hopefully if the meeting doesn't go on too long, they will do that.
Yeah. I don't know.
We'll still have some energy left at the
Yeah,
end.
it's those meetings that go till like 11 o'clock midnight. Those are the ones when everybody
Right.
just like
It's an
puts their
average.
chair away and
yeah.
goes home.
Girl, that's an average select board meeting.
Oh, yeah. So remind me, do we open it as do we open the meeting as a select board meeting and then turn it over to Jen, or Jen opens the meeting and does all of that? We're just there
Correct.
to look good. Answer questions.
Right.
Okay.
It's not
No,
a
we-
select board
It's
meeting.
not a
Okay.
select board meeting. We'll open it up
Okay.
as-
It's Jen's meeting, not our meeting.
There we go.
It's not
Her and
my
Sharon-
meeting,
it's
it's
hers
the
and Sharon.
people's meeting.
It's the town clerk's
I am
meeting.
just there to facilitate the meeting. Don't you all hide behind cardboard cutouts. I am not the meeting. Okay, good. Yeah, now I remember to bring my gavel and pound the meeting to order. I will
Right.
recess it until we vote the next day on Tuesday. I will definitely make sure to mention the honorarium in the beginning of this for Diane Cushman
Mhm.
and point that out to folks. We don't have any memorial pages anymore in the town report. do we?
It depends.
Varies.
It
Oh,
depends.
okay. I didn't find any.
We
this
didn't
year.
lose anybody.
Well, we
We
did.
did,
we didn't get it.
Yeah, but the logistics didn't come together to make it happen. We tried.
Who did we lose? Who you're thinking of?
Tom Wells.
Oh,
Wallace.
Wallace. Yes.
Wallace.
Right, yeah.
Tom Wells.
Thanks. Not yet. No, Wallace. Yep, I forgot about that. Yep. Okay, I could say it's a word or two. Yep, and maybe we'll share memories of Tom Wallace at the end.
And his pit helmet.
You're going first.
Great.
Okay,
You might get a little question, I think on Article 10, it's new,
okay.
about setting up a recreation
Mm.
equipment fund,
Right.
facility capital fund. That might
Yep.
generate a question or two.
I think it would be nice to acknowledge also that Darla will not be running again, so this,
Yep.
that will be her last.
She's running
day.
away.
She's running all right,
We're
running
not going
away.
So that'll be her last official
That's right.
duty
Will
as,
be, yeah. Select board.
Can
Okay.
we bring you flowers at the end, like the
Oh,
ice skating?
yeah, if he wants to. I'm not gonna say no to flowers.
Nice. Okay.
Bottle of wine might be more appropriate.
During, before the meeting starts? or-
The pre-meeting.
oh my goodness.
Good.
Yeah, there's nothing else I see on there. Obviously, a lot is similar year to year. There's a few changes in terms of the articles and the
Yeah.
warning.
Last year, the penalty charged by the tax collector was very popular, if I'm remembering
Right.
that right.
That's
There's always that
that's always a
wild
good one,
card.
yeah.
Yeah, there's always a wild card.
Yeah,
one
we,
that-
we basically have gone with what has been recommended from the floor for the past few years rather than,
Yeah. Okay.
rather than what statute says we can.
Article 6.
Yep.
Might get some discussion.
Is that what it was last year?
No, it's not.
Okay.
We've changed that.
Right. Yes, I see.
If you want to make a little vote. Just here, if somebody asks you, when you read all these positions that are being elected the next day, it's on page 14, they can find all the people that are running.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I thought the budgets were pretty clear. I know I had a question or two myself, but this is not the place for me to ask, but the voters will have
Here's-
to
here's-
decide.
already,
yeah.
No, no, it's not my time. You guys have other business. I don't want to keep you here till 11 o'clock at night.
In terms of the town report, it's a little bit thicker this year. I reached out to a lot of the civic and social services organizations to get reports. Usually it's we sort of wait for people to send in reports, and we do get a fair amount. But I reached out to every organization that does receive an appropriation and asked for a report, and they were very happy to give it. So those details are all in there, which is nice. And it's sort of, I tried to group them by Bristol-based organizations and then organizations outside of Bristol in terms of the way that they're in the report.
Which would be helpful if we end up going to Australian ballot.
That's right. And that was kind of why I did that, to sort of get the detail. So people who had questions would be able to get that information in this year's report for next year.
9 and 11, Jennifer, somebody may think those look like the same. And in terms, they somewhat are, but they're not. 9 is we're asking to spend the 200,000 from the June 30th undesignated fund balance. Unassigned fund balance. And then Article 11 is we're taking the tax dollars and putting it in those funds.
Gotcha.
Okay?
Yep.
Valerie, it may help us on the, or you answering if you can, if someone said, okay, if Article 9 and 11 pass, what's in the capital paving fund now, or what's in the reappraisal fund? Or we had those little cheat notes over here, maybe. I know you can flop it up real quick, what's in the funds, but.
All the information is there.
Yeah.
Those funds are in the report.
Right.
I hope so. Yeah, and from there, it's pretty simple math.
June 30th anyway.
Yeah, right. Any other questions, Jen?
I have no other questions. Great.
I'm not sure Article 13, the very first one on the thing with all the cemetery damage they had. And they're the first one, Bristol Cemetery, that someone, I wouldn't be surprised if someone gets up and asks to raise that because of the storm damage. They've done a nice job picking it all up, and I don't know what their cost was. But somebody
Yeah,
may
that was
ask.
one of the things I was thinking about.
Somebody may
As I looked
ask.
to the different, why we're giving them, I hope we're giving them 10,000 extra, because they said they needed 10,000 extra. I read in the paper at one place.
That was prior to the storm.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
In the town report, I created a new section for information that was already in the town report, which was district budgets. Those were sort of grouped in financial reports, but I split them out just so people are aware of the police district and as well as the sewer and water. Tried to make that a little bit more easier to understand. And then the fire department capital equipment and capital apparatus, that for some reason that it disappeared from the last few years of reports. It has been in prior ones, but now it's back in.
It was that guy that probably that guy last year that put their town report together.
No, I'm not sure why. Yeah.
You probably didn't get all the information.
Well, yeah. But those are in there now. Which is
Article 14 is long tradition one, the 4th of July, but that's
Yeah.
pretty good. It's a good increase this year. So you may get a question on that.
And we've got the ARPA committee, even though they weren't active last year or in 2023, because they've sort of done their charge. They provided an update in terms of what was recommended by the committee. And then there's an update in there in terms of what has been, how money has been spent so far.
Yep.
We also got a update from the Design Review Commission. We hadn't had a report from that commission, which meets a few times during the year, specifically looking at facade and design restrictions and review within the downtown district, which is essentially just a very small downtown area. So I asked Ron LaRose for a report from that, and he provided a very nice one and sort of detailed what that committee or commission has done. And I'm on that commission, and it's nice to see that in there.
Yes, these are great reports, just so much wonderful information and transparency about what's going on in the town. I found it really informational as I read through it.
Good.
Hey, Ian, I didn't get to read all of it, but did we get reports from all the ARPA people or all the people that we gave funding to?
We did. We've either, the updates are there within the ARPA Funding Advisory Committee report. And it's in their table, it sort of details the status of some of those. Other information is provided in reports from the organizations. It's kind of a mix.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
I know.
I'm not gonna cross it out, but it's, someone may ask.
Okay. Which is that?
Page 15.
Yeah. Explanation on that is this went to print before he resigned.
Right. Correct.
Well, it's also the report is for the previous year. So that's why.
June
June
30th.
30th,
right,
it ends, everything in here ends June 30th, 2023.
Anything else?
We gotta save something for surprise. We're not gonna tell you everything.
That's what
Peter will have his Hawaiian shirt on,
How fast can she
right,
type?
Peter, you'll have a Hawaiian shirt on,
Yep.
Right.
he always does.
All right.
How many do you have of those now?
Oh, a lot.
Some fit better than others.
They shrink. They're made out of
Yeah.
material. No, they're made out of material, but I've got some that won't fit my granddaughter now.
All right, thank you.
All right.
Thank
Yeah,
you. Jen.
Thank you, Jen.
Yeah,
See you
appreciate it.
Monday.
Yeah.
All righty. Before we move on to the next agenda item, I just want to circle back on the town health officer. Two messages. Greg West emailed, he said, hello, I just thought I should let it be known that my wife is in the medical field, and while I may not know about disease like some in healthcare, I'm not oblivious to it. I know how they spread and prevention measures to take. That was a lot of what I did with renovation work through the years, and have cleaned out hoarders' houses a few times in his career.
Okay.
And we also received a chat message from Helen Young that she noted that the advertisement for the town health officer noted that medical experience was not required, and that experience in the building trades would be helpful. And she suggested that perhaps should be re-advertised. But the reason it was structured that way was because Diane Cushman actually advised that medical experience is not necessary. I mean, even though she's a nurse, that a lot of the other stuff had to do more with buildings. Like the mold and
Okay.
rental properties and
Good to
things
know.
like that, and trash buildup and that kind of thing. So that's why it was structured that way.
Understood. Thank you. All right, so item 6, consider the selection of a consultant team for the Bristol Accessible Recreation Town Parks Project and allocation of ARPA funds for it.
Yes, this is a little awkward. As I noted in my summary here, we received 6 responses, which was quite surprising, to our request for proposals. And this whole initiative is the result of a pilot project to study accessibility for recreation facilities in Bristol. And we enlisted several reviewers. Ian was one of them. And they were each, it ultimately got narrowed down to 2 of the, out of the 6 proposals. And the reviews were kind of balancing themselves out. And I didn't realize until I was re-reviewing some of the other comments from the other reviewers that part of my summary was not exactly accurate. That the tie was with the proposal from CRO and Du Bois and King. And I realized today that the CRO proposal, the cost proposal, whatever it is, anyway, it's not a lump sum of 50,000. That's for the phase 1. The phase 2 is actually the construction documents, which they estimated would be between, I think, $6,000 and several $1,000s per park, in addition to the $50,000 lump sum for the phase 1. So that was a bit of a surprise to me. And I'm not sure. So, I was just recapping the reviews.
Yeah.
And the fact that just today I realized that the CRO proposal, the $50,000 lump sum was just for phase 1.
Correct.
And that's what you were referring to
That's
when
right.
you said they didn't include the construction documents, because the technical proposal was very clear that they did.
Yeah.
They gave that a lot of consideration, but I didn't quite catch in the cost proposal that would be an additional
Yeah, I don't know
service over and
why
above.
they split it out as a
Yeah.
separate thing,
Right.
unless they interpreted the RFP just to get to a certain point.
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't matter if it's an additional cost.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that may make the choice a little easier, but that's, yeah. So I posted on the website the 2 technical proposals and the 2 cost proposals. So if folks had a chance to look at them themselves, you can make your own decision or suggestion.
I mean, overall, I thought that those 2 proposals were excellent.
Yeah.
They definitely had sort of different approaches and different ways of.
They each had little idiosyncrasies in them, like
Yes.
little typos or little misreferences,
Yeah.
but they all did that in some way.
Yeah, I mean, there definitely was a fairly large difference in terms of the hours that were proposed
Right.
by each, with one being far greater than the other. And one had sort of even though they said that they could work within the time frame that we had allotted, they would prefer to have an additional 3 months in the time frame, which I thought was interesting. So I don't know. I'm not sure about that.
Right, and I had, on the town's website, I had published an FAQs that came out after the RFP was issued to respond to the questions that were coming in. So I tried to make all of that available to everybody, and they're still posted there for reference. I know that Porter had hoped to join in tonight's conversation, but not sure that she's made it.
If we do this study, what are we looking to? What's the end goal? What is or just a study that's done that the parks are gonna cost us hundreds of $1,000s to do the infrastructure and all this that they come up that should be done? And then obviously, we're probably gonna shelf that because we can't afford it, or look for grants, or you couldn't, if we don't even have this first study done, you can't even apply for a grant? Or is it gonna just sit on a shelf after we do this $50,000 study?
The objective and first of all, the suggestion is, and I believe the select board supported this, was that the study would be done with ARPA funding. And the goal is to have construction documents of the preferred designs for each park, so that if and when grant funding comes around, that we would have shovel-ready projects to apply for, which would increase our competitiveness for different grants.
Yeah, I don't think it was so that we were ready. It wasn't so that we were gonna spend the money. That was never the intent. It was
Right.
never to budget the money
Right.
to do the work. It was to have the projects ready to apply for grants.
And one of the concerns that has been brought to our attention is not only the cost of design and construction and all of that, but the ongoing maintenance. So to
Right,
make
no,
sure
Eric
that
addressed
the,
that issue.
that be factored into whatever designs ultimately get selected. So the choices are Du Bois and King, and they provided a cost estimate of a little over $42,000, almost $43,000. And in the past, they were willing to agree to a contract of not to exceed. So if it doesn't cost that much, then they don't bill as much. And if they begin to approach that threshold, then we talk about it.
Well, Du Bois and King, and the other one you mentioned, I don't know who it was exactly, but one was going, that doesn't come with construction documents.
Yes, they.
Oh, it does?
Yeah, yes, that includes construction documents.
And the other one was, it was two-phased.
Right.
Price to do it and say, this is what you're going, now if you want the construction documents, they're more in line.
Right, yeah.
How much more money?
Yeah. how much?
It was between, and actually looking at it more closely, between, I can't share my screen, so do you want to make me a host?
Sure.
I'll just put this right up there. Yeah, I'm not sure why I don't get host privileges anymore.
No, he's just trying to keep you spaced out.
She shut automatically.
Nothing's automatic with those things.
Yes.
We've got Mr. IT here.
No, I
Victor and
know,
I
sorry.
were-
I shouldn't question his
IT.
IT knowledge.
You
Right,
can
so
question it 3 times.
It's here.
Yeah, so this is the CRO cost proposal, and I was focused on this $50,000 lump sum figure that they referenced in their narrative, and I hadn't fully noticed the distinctions down here, including
Bigger
permitters.
Yeah.
I don't expect any of the sites are gonna require much permitting, if anything,
No,
unless they're proposing anything in the water,
Yeah.
then there would need to be something.
yeah, D&Ks didn't include the permitting only because they spoke of the probably not needed,
Right.
given their knowledge about the sites.
Right,
Unless you started with impervious soil parking,
Right,
then you would need. Yeah, that triggers with A&R, huge.
Construction documents between 5 and 60,000 per.
yeah.
yeah, that was a bit stunning.
Yeah,
To say the
I
least.
think if we're thinking we're gonna move forward with this, that it's Du Bois and King.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And they're familiar with us, we worked with them.
Yes. We worked with Dan, would be the lead on this. We worked with him for the Munsell Avenue sidewalk scoping study that we did.
Mhm.
He's very detail oriented, very experienced. And this actually seems more in his wheelhouse in terms of his background
right.
and education. Yeah, I looking at the two, I looked at both, read both before looking at their cost and made some notes,
Mhm.
which might be on the website, I'm not sure. But I thought D&Ks, I mean, not just the cost, but in terms of how they presented it. I mean, they were both very good, but
Right.
D&Ks is
Very
kind of-
passionate. Very
Everything that they've ever come back to us with is well thought through.
Yes.
I mean, they haven't made a presentation that I ever thought was lacking. If anything,
Right.
there's more information than what we really need.
Right.
I agree.
Yeah, it's not just, I mean, you can look at presentations and see, oh, they're well laid out, they've got some nice graphics, they use this, but it's the thought out part, like you can read through and it's like, oh, it's not they're copying and pasting from previous RFP answers, it's very specific to what your project is, which is great. I mean, that's what it should be.
Mhm.
But yeah, that was my recommendation to Val was Du Bois and King.
And one of the things that distinguished the CRO technical proposal was their collaboration with Vermont Adaptive, which is obviously they have a great deal of experience and passion on this particular subject. And so in my communications with Porter before the meeting tonight, she suggested that if we did go with Du Bois and King, that we reach out to Vermont Adaptive and try to include them as part of the whole
Connection.
public outreach process.
Do they have, or does the board have any, through you, Valley, have any knowledge of, okay, we wanna do our parks, or we wanna do certain ones more narrowed down?
I think if we do the study on all of them, we'll see the
narrow.
plans and
See the
then we'll be
plan,
able
yeah.
to,
We'll have a better
yeah.
idea of what's,
Cause like we
Doable.
know that Memorial Park is gonna be
Yeah.
way more costly than everything
Yeah.
else. And, you know, but there again, it really will depend on the grants that are available.
Right.
Right.
Let's see, to be fair, I think, the Du Bois and King proposal also pointed out some of the things that, depending on how the designs go, might trigger the need for additional services, but, not to quite the same degree
No.
as CR.
No.
yeah.
So any further discussion on that?
No, I'm just excited to see it sort of happening. I have a very good friend who's suffering with ALS, so we're seeing a progression in her disease, and traveling with her recently, I was firsthand to see difficulties getting through airports and just mobility in general, and I can see where an avid sports person and outdoors person, and just the difficulties that she had just trying to get around. I think sometimes it's easy for us able-bodied folks to say, it's not a big deal, or why should we do that? When you see it firsthand from someone who that's been a huge passion for their entire life, it's very different. So I have a renewed interest in this project. I just think sometimes we have to look outside ourselves when it comes to these things. But hopefully there'll be some great grant money out there where we can make some things accessible.
Right, and I was, in preparing for this agenda item, I also looked back at the presentation that Porter made in August last year, and I posted it on the website, that it's not just physical accessibility, but equity, social equity. Yeah, so that it's inviting for all.
Well, it makes me think when we started the park project and people were like excited about how much money we put into the foundation of that park. And part of the reasons we did that was because it was recommended to us at that time that stable walking surfaces, if there are grandparents who are bringing people, bringing kids to the park, and maybe you got a knee problem or something like that, walking on uneven surfaces can be a real tripping hazard. So at the time, it was a big ticket item to put in the grass that we did, the X-grass, I think is what it was called at the time. And all of the drainage that went into all of that. There's a lot of site work that went into that, thanks to Peaker for a lot of it. But it's more than just a nice playground, it's an accessible playground, and it makes a huge difference for kids. And I've seen a number of kids with different physical needs enjoy that park, and different age groups as well. So I think, again, it comes back to that social connectedness that we talk about.
Well, given also the amount of time that it's been out there and suffered through our winters, it's the material.
It's amazing.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And when the grass is out, the color is almost an exact match with the grass that's in
When
the
you're looking
park.
across the park,
I
you can't
know.
tell it's fake.
Yeah, and I'm always surprised at how well it's holding up. Because it was a new thing. I don't think it had even been used in any Vermont parks or areas. It had been used out of Massachusetts, I believe.
Yeah,
But,
they
yeah.
used it nearby, but not here.
Yeah,
And it was similar to what like the multi-purpose fields but not the exact same
No.
thing.
but yeah. it still
And there's,
looks
yeah,
great.
it's amazing. There's just never been any pooling of water or anything. Anyway, that's a whole other conversation.
Porter's on there.
Porter's on. Porter.
Hi, Porter. She's gone.
Well, she was.
She was.
We were chatting away.
There she
There
is.
she is.
So are you talking about this already? I thought it was like not for an hour and a half on the agenda, or did you just?
We're just whipping through things.
Whipping through, yeah. Yeah, we are talking about it.
Yeah, we're all done.
So our Porter, our preference has been towards Du Bois and King. As you know, I reviewed the two proposals, and then we've been discussing it here this evening. But that's the direction that we're looking at taking. I didn't know if you had any feedback or wish to add anything to that.
No, and Valerie's probably shared some of my perspectives. Like I was really excited about, the proposal that was including Vermont Adaptive. And I thought that they played a greater emphasis on community engagement than the others. And that's really exciting to me because I feel like this is a real opportunity and I think we want to think out of the box. This is not, it's not just a project where like, this is what we want, so tell us how to engineer that. It's more like, what are the possibilities here? But I agree that the Du Bois and King, it was a rock solid proposal and they did a great job. And, especially when you look at comparing the costs, it feels like that, is the way to go. And also, we know them and they know us. And I think we can say, look, we're really interested in having a lot of community engagement in this process to make sure that we hear from our community members about what's going to support them and their families and what they would be excited to see here. And we're also really interested in hearing some creative ideas that, will really make Bristol's parks stand out for all of our citizens and visitors. So I think if we tell them we want to emphasize that, I'm sure that they will.
Yeah, they've been very responsive to previous scoping studies that they have done for the town and other things. So I don't see that being an issue.
Yeah, well, and also, I mean, and Valerie and I talked about this a little bit, that, with the Munsell project, they did a good job, really working to get engagement there. So I feel like if we let them know that's important to us, they'll make it a priority.
Yeah. I make a motion to accept the Du Bois and King proposal.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Do we want to set an upper limit or not to exceed or?
Well, their proposal was what, 42?
Their cost proposal,
42,600 something.
42,681.
I think
But these are all based on
Ian said up to
estimates.
43,000.
Yeah. Up to 43. I mean, or do you think it needs to be greater than that? I mean, they've been very open in terms of as a project has progressed, if additional costs were going to happen.
Perhaps up to 45.
So you want to amend your?
Yeah, amend that, accept the proposal up to 45,000, not to exceed.
Okay.
I'm okay with that.
And you're okay with that, all right? So all those in favor?
Aye.
And that's of ARPA funding.
ARPA funding,
Yes.
yes.
Well, that's the next. Oh,
Right.
okay, yes, yeah.
All right,
Right.
thank you. Thank you,
Right.
Porter.
Thank you for it.
Item number seven, consider additional allocation.
Logged in a little early to see where you were on the agenda.
So item 7, consider additional allocations of ARPA funding.
I do not have anything new to offer, but I can show you where we are at with the balance.
Does the balance include interest?
No, I do not know what the interest is.
Sharon, do you know what the interest is?
It's a few dollars.
Is it more than $10? I hope.
Probably, but.
Okay, good.
$11.95.
It was 11.97 the last time I checked. And growing.
So on your screen is the current balance, and based upon the decision just made of up to $45,000. And I threw in the bus shelter installation. I don't know if an estimated cost was ever agreed upon that might come out of the ARPA funding. So in consulting with Ian, we came up with it's probably not going to be more than $5,000. So I think I've captured everything, and the balance is about $282,000. Plus whatever the interest is that's accrued.
And when do we have to have that allocated?
It's already been allocated.
It's already been allocated,
That's
just-
basically when the select board agreed to accept the revenue replacement option, that did it. So now it's town money
Okay,
from here forward. But technically, the program requires that the funds be obligated or by the 24th, December 31st, 2024, and actually spent by December 31st, 2026. But technically, we've already done that. We've already met that requirement.
Okay. Great.
Did you have anything you were going to?
There was the farmer's market budget. I have that, if people want to see that.
We can do that. And you're looking for a new farmer's market person, correct?
Correct. Which is a good portion of those funds would be used for that.
A good portion of what's left would be used for the farmer's market?
I thought we.
Of the ARPA funds?
Yeah.
No, of the.
I was like, whoa.
Farmer's market budget.
It's a pretty sweet position. No, of the ask from Bristol Core of ARPA funds, which was 10,000. The town did $1,000 last year, which helped with the grant application that Core had applied for and received. And then there was discussion at that time, and it was going to be 10,000 for the next additional 3 years to support the market.
So basically 3,300 a year.
Correct. Well, no, it would be
No,
it was 10 a year.
10 a year.
Correct.
We're talking 30 grand.
Correct. Over 3 years. And the discussion at the time was just to see how the farmers market performed in 2023. And then each year it would be discussed at a select board meeting to see if that budget was still needed. So it wasn't a committing those funds. It would just be a discussion each year.
So what happens after 3 years if it's not funding
So
itself?
the idea is that hopefully the market becomes self-sustaining with vendor income, and that can support. But we're still trying to work on that. The idea is to try to, with each market for the next 3 years, be able to use, put away some of that money to support markets after that. And more than likely, some of Bristol Core's budget might go towards that budget as well, which we kind of do, with flower baskets or pocock rocks, things like that.
So hopefully it's not a wet summer and you can get good crowds.
Right, I know, which it was last year, which is tough.
Horrible.
So I broke, go on.
Yeah. So one of the things about the market last summer is there weren't really very many farmers.
I heard that a lot.
Part of it was trying to engage people who wanted to be part of the market, who hadn't already set up and had already had a plan for where they were selling or not selling for that year. Because it was a new market, it was coming back after a very long hiatus. And then there's also the seasons too, in terms of being able to get produce at certain times. But we're working to improve that this year.
Do we anticipate that changing? I mean, it was a great little market and it was a wonderful thing. And I'm hoping that the community felt economic dividends from that. But the ARPA criteria was not for a farmer's market per se. What the ARPA committee was really talking about at the time was looking for ways to support local growers and to make create more opportunities for there to be local people accessing locally grown food. And we didn't know how to do that. We didn't really have any proposals for it. And CORE came forward with the farmer's market idea, and that was great. But, to Michelle's point, I would be a little concerned about using the ARPA money because for something that's an ongoing sort of administrative expense. Because the way that we were trying to use the ARPA money was, yes, to leverage funds. So to the extent that those funds are leveraging additional money to the community, okay. But more to create infrastructure supports or do something that's an investment in lasting change. And then also, demographics. We were trying to provide a broad range of things that would help people in different parts of the community. And farmers were a group of as a demographic that, we wanted to see supported. So if there's really going to be farmers there, I feel like that's more in line with what the ARPA committee was looking for. If you're certain or Frida's confident that you can leverage this, use this money to leverage additional money for the farmer's market, okay, that would probably also be supportive. But anyway, that's just my 2 cents. So
But to just put $30,000 out there for the sake of putting it out there isn't acceptable under the terms of what you discussed as a committee.
it's definitely not the spirit of what we were going at with support farmers or farmers market except on that line item on the ARPA thing. So I'm not saying you shouldn't do it. I'm just wanted to share, you know, where we were really hoping to go with that. But like nobody came forward and said like, here's a great way to use ARPA money to support local farmers and get their food into the hands of our citizens. So the closest idea, but then when there were there really any farmers there? It was kind of,
So what does the space cost? I guess I should tell you where I'm going before I ask.
Sure, yeah.
Before I ask the question, where I'm going is if you're looking to get farmers involved, do we offset the cost of their space with ARPA money as opposed to paying for,
that sort of.
yeah, as opposed to paying for a director? Would that go more to meeting the goals than somebody there selling widgets at the farmer's market?
I mean, maybe if that's a barrier to farmers, I mean, I asked that question last year, why aren't there more farmers? And I heard the things that Ian shared, which is, you know, it came together quickly, sort of late in the winter. So the farmers might not have planted enough to allocate some to the farmers market. Some farmers may have expressed that they were really short-staffed and they didn't have somebody who'd go stand there on a Monday and sell things. And then other farmers felt like they had other venues like their CSA or their farm stand that provided a better return on the investment for them than the farmer's market. So that was all anecdotal. I don't really, and I don't know what the real barriers to having farmers produce at that farmer's market was. But I like that thinking, Peter, if that was a barrier, is the cost, if that could help. I don't know.
I mean, the cost was fairly minimal. It was like $25 and it was a season. It was 19 markets. More than half, unfortunately, were rained out. And I think it's sort of taking a chance. I mean, I like that concept could work, but it's whether we can get enough that are farmer specific. I mean, I think Alicia tried very hard to get as much produce as possible. It's just a difficult thing. I think the main thing was because of markets that were already started and successful. It was to take a chance on a Bristol one on a Monday night or Monday afternoon, evening. That was the worry for a lot of people.
Well, I can tell you from my experience back, we used to run a farm stand and we used to pedal everywhere.
Yeah.
And then over the years, we grew our clientele and we got where we didn't have to leave.
Yeah.
They came to us. And why would you want to come and peddle your wares on the park when you can stay and have them come to you? So I can see when you said where the CSAs and that, where people chose not to come, especially if they have to hire somebody to come, the margins aren't that great.
Yeah.
And if they have to hire somebody to come and sit on the park and then they don't cover their costs.
Right. Which happened for some vendors and not for others, depending on what the vending was. But yeah.
Ian, do you think what's that, Darla?
I just said I bought some of the best blueberries I've ever had at the farmer's market this summer.
I mean, I thought that the event was pretty well attended and it certainly looked like, people were enjoying it and having fun. Do you think that the sort of vibe or the word on the street is that it was a great season and that more people might want to buy in because of that?
I hope, but given that more than half the markets were rained out, we definitely had good feedback. The few vendors that have reached out to us already asking about this year's market, they're excited to come back, which is good. That first year, bringing it back after many, many years of not having any market is a scary thing to do, I think, but we're getting good interest in it. Obviously, Alicia stepped down as the executive director of Bristol Core, and she also was the one who implemented and started the market, and she had previous experience running or working on the Middlebury Farmers Market. So we sort of lost that resource, but we've had a few interested people, 3 or 4 or more than that, have applied for the market position. But it really does need to be a paying position, or you're just not going to be able to get someone to work on it. And I think that's partly, I think people had good intentions with the previous market, and then it just became something where, because it wasn't a paid position, it just got more and more difficult to sort of manage.
Sorry, Ian.
No,
I think the market itself will, as long as it's consistent, like every year you're gonna
Yes.
have it. I think it'll get better, but whether you're gonna get the actual farmers in there, most of the farmers around here have their own stand.
I know. Yeah, and I'm fine. I mean, if it's something where the board decides that they want to stay true to in terms of the intentions of the ARPA committee, that's fine. I mean, CORE would just have to seek funding from other areas. We applied for a grant last year. Alicia did that, and obviously with grant writing it takes a lot of time. But yeah, I definitely don't want to go against in terms of what the meaning was in terms of behind that ask.
Right.
Ian, you said that you've had some interest, people are calling now.
Yeah.
Are any of those farmers that sell vegetables and stuff?
Yeah, a couple. Some are crafts, some are prepared foods, and some are produce.
Prepare food, okay. I don't consider a prepare food more.
Oh, no, that's it, yes, and some are agriculture.
Trying to get to that farmer question that Michelle had about.
Yeah, and we always tried to do a mix if we could, on each Monday, and the reason we chose Monday and had prepared foods was just because there's nothing really open in town, or a lot of the restaurants are closed on a Monday evening, so it didn't conflict with that. But yeah, we always tried to get a mix of agriculture, prepared foods, and crafts. But obviously it was, I think, on some markets it was heavier on prepared foods and crafts versus agriculture. Just hard to get those.
Thanks, Ian.
Sure.
So is there anything more on that subject for ARPA funding? How do we want to leave it and move forward with future discussions of ARPA funding?
I'd like to I got updates for the town report of how the money's been spent. It'd be nice to have a few organizations come back to us where we haven't had much of an update yet, just to sort of see where things are at. And maybe you and I could go through and just see where that is, or who that might be.
But in terms of deciding what to do with the $282,000.
Well, there's still quite a few things on that list that haven't been touched yet. I know the library is actively pursuing the easements and the what's happening with the septic to be able to see if an outdoor classroom in some manner can be placed and work over there. And a meeting will happen hopefully between the new director at the library and a couple of the board members and myself, just to sort of discuss that and see where we're at. And I can bring that back at a next meeting.
Okay. Great.
All right. Item 8. Consider retroactive grant authorization request from the Hub Teen Center to the Vermont After School Vermont Youth Project.
What happens if we say no?
So
Let's do it.
Retro.
Take it, they've already applied.
It was.
Got the grant in their hand?
Yeah, pretty much.
Why are we here on Monday nights then, people? I just say
Well,
that.
It's only 8:04 on Monday. Come on, we're doing pretty well
Right.
today.
But also because we only meet every 2 weeks, and
Yeah.
sometimes there's deadlines that
Yeah.
come up.
Right.
If you just,
They sneak up.
they
They
see
sneak up.
And the
Makes
policy
sense.
does allow for retroactive.
Yeah. I'm just
If the
making-
timing doesn't work out.
So moved.
Okay, so we have, well, actually, you,
I know that.
Yeah,
You can
so
second that.
you
okay?
second.
No, I don't want to.
you
Second.
can switch it, whatever. So
I'll
motion second, all those in favor of applying for the retroactive grant application
And receiving it.
and receiving it?
Aye.
All right, thank you. And number 9, review and approval of the January 8, 15, 29, February 1, February 12 meeting minutes.
Only the January 8th and the 15th are currently available. We did receive the February 1 and February 12 draft minutes today, and I posted them, not reviewed yet, but they're posted on the website. As
Now, I
is.
sent you 3. Which 3 did I sent you?
We
January.
already had approved the 22nd.
Okay. I make a motion, we approve the other 2 that I sent you. Yeah, the January ones.
Okay.
January 8th and 15th, Michelle, you're saying?
Yeah, I think it's the
Yeah,
8th and the 15th.
All right, second.
All right, all those in favor of approval of those minutes?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Item 10, authorize accounts payable warrant and any liquor and tobacco licenses in the amount of. Do you have
The
the-
warrant is $431,718.06.
Alrighty. We all signed it, so it's all good to
All
go.
but Michelle, yep.
Any, no liquor, tobacco?
Not this week.
Not this week.
Let's see.
Okay. Authorize accounts payable, we did that, just did that, Darla. Select board roundtable, Ian.
I mentioned the town report, that people can come and pick up a copy. It's on the website. Any corrections that someone finds, please feel free to email me and I can update the electronic version if I need to. Had a question, what's our policy for flyers / posters on lamp posts? I saw a couple outside where the crosswalk is for the scouts. They're taped to the large green posts that are out there. Do we have a policy for that? Is that allowed, not allowed?
I don't believe we have a policy, but
Okay.
it sounds like maybe we should.
I thought we did
doesn't
take
happen very
her.
often.
Didn't Bob Stetson always go out and tell people they had to take them off of the poles?
He would take them off.
Power poles.
Yeah,
Right,
that's what I'm saying.
power
our
poles.
Can't be on power poles. I don't know about our poles.
Yeah, I was just curious about that. I mean, we don't have a kiosk or anything, but there are other places in town, but it doesn't
Well,
look great.
and then the question is, who removes them when the day passes?
Yeah, exactly. And it sort of, depending on how you've taped it up, it leaves sticky stuff on there and it doesn't look great, so.
Well, we used to always get somebody applied to put up the ribbons in either breast
Oh,
cancer
yeah.
awareness or whatever it
Mhm.
was in this fall. So why isn't this any different?
That they would have to apply.
Yeah.
And
If
it's
we're
not really,
going to do that anyway.
no, I mean, the lamppost isn't really, it's large. It's not like the Main Street lamppost, it's the intersection one, so it's a larger area, but it's not really a posting area. I mean, people could post something on our electrical boxes out there. And sometimes they do, but I'm sure we wouldn't allow that. Because it's not an official posting area, I guess that would be my.
No, I
reason.
don't think, it's basically defacing.
Right.
Yeah.
Would be my take on it, is whether it's a good cause or not.
Yes, regardless of who's posting it, I would recommend taking those down, and I'm sure they're posted in other places too. And I had one other thing. So this is a question about, Joel, last week, Joel had talked to Richard, who is here, with regard to the Energy Committee, and you asked a question about natural gas. You'd like to see
Yes.
that, then discuss that. Thinking about it more over the week and reading the minutes they put it on their agenda. This was last week. I read the minutes, and they've also emailed the Addison County Regional Planning Commission. They felt confused and not sure of their position of how to begin that process. But stepping back a little bit, I was curious about the board's ability for like individual members to make such a request. And the reason I asked is because it's quite a large request. It's not something that we talk.
Individual members of this board? to
Yes,
make
a request of a committee, whether it be this or something else.
Mhm.
What's our position on that? Are we allowed to do that as select board members? And with an item like that, should it have been brought as an agenda item for discussion before then talking to a committee?
I think I would have to say, I would think that it should come as, if it's a request of a committee, it should come as a directive of the board, from the board.
Okay.
Meaning that Joel brings it to us and then we send it to the committee. That would have been his select board concern.
Okay.
And then as a group, we make the decision to send it to the committee to, I mean, it's all right to suggest that they look into it. And if they want to do it on their own, then they can do it.
Right.
So let me be devil's advocate here. What happens if it's a community member who wants them to look at it? How do they go about that? We don't have a policy that says you have to come to the select board and then we have to bring it to the energy committee. But then the energy committee doesn't necessarily have to listen to them.
Exactly. Any more than they have to listen to Joel as one member of the board. I would say, I would say that if you came to me with a legitimate ask, and I would run it to the rest of the board, and if the rest of the board felt that it was a legitimate ask, then we would discuss it. It's no different than somebody coming to us with an ask. If we feel we discuss it. If we feel it's a legitimate ask, then we go further. And
I guess my comment is, if you have a committee member who wants to know how to do this, and they go to the energy committee without, coming to the board, what's the process then? I mean, does the committee have to say, no, we're not going to consider that? Or do they say, well, you have to bring it through the select board? I mean, I don't know. Do we have a policy on how that works?
I don't think we have a policy, but I guess what I'm saying is that if you as a citizen brought it to the board and they discussed it as a board, they could decide whether they wanted to pick it up or not. And if you weren't satisfied with that, then you could come to the select board. The select board would discuss it and recommend that the committee take it up.
Right.
I think, we may have got ahead of ourselves a little bit because we didn't discuss it, and he did say, I would like to have them look into it.
Yeah.
And at that point, it's just one person asking.
Right. But they did put it on the agenda and talk about it and are, and from the minutes, and I know Jimmy attended that meeting, they were, because of involvement for energy committee members for the previous lawsuit, when that project was in town and being discussed, they had concerns about that. Do energy members recuse themselves from the discussion? So they're just kind of, it was a little bit complicated. And it's not just, I mean, it could have been any request. This one was a particular big one, but it's for all of us to sort of think about, because I had things like, I'd really like to see a push button crosswalk by Pleasant and North. Could I bring that to the pedestrian committee and say, could you please research this? I'd really love to see you bring this to the select board. But I think that's something I have to talk with everyone about. I think if it was like, it'd be great to have better lighting in here, LED bulbs, that's one thing, but like bigger projects, I feel.
Yeah, I think I know where Joel was going, and I would support looking into whether they were willing to come here or not. But I get what you're saying. It's a big ask. You come from one person, it's a big ask. If they discuss it as a group and they're not comfortable going forward with it, then I think it has to come as a directive from the select board if we want them to look at it.
Right. And my worry was because the lawsuit last time wasn't about stopping Vermont gas coming here. It was the way that the select board had handled the public input. The select board had a purview to decide, because it was a utility, to either make the decision or not. But the argument in the lawsuit was about public input and how there wasn't a public vote for it. That was what the lawsuit was about. So my concern, as I thought about it last week, I thought, well, we're doing the same kind of thing by having a single select board member ask about it, but then we haven't discussed it. So are we doing the same thing where it's like, we're not publicly talking about it, but we're asking it? And I also didn't want to have people be confused, like, is this a select board ask? They've asked this committee to look into this, or is it just a single question just randomly at the end of a thing? It's not, I'm not trying to attack you, Joe.
Well, I think you are, but
no, I'm not.
Keep right on going.
I'm not, but it is, that particular project is a really big project.
It's a hot button.
And I want to make sure that, like, it's handled better than it was handled last time, because what happened with the lawsuit. I wouldn't want that to happen again.
So that said, Joel, if you want to pursue this, get it on the agenda and we'll
Okay.
discuss it as a board.
Ben has
And
a
then-
question.
Ben,
Hi, so I'm on the energy committee and I wrote the meeting minutes. I was at the meeting.
Yeah.
So just a little bit of context from the meeting. My impression is that we were taking Joel's question as a member of the public and we're trying to decide how do we proceed with this? It didn't seem to me, and I didn't hear, I wasn't at the select board meeting when it came up, but it didn't sound to me like it was a select board ask, but being that Joel was on the board, we thought, yeah, let's put it on the agenda. Let's talk about it. And we got into some interesting discussion about it. And I learned a lot of the history of it and everything. But I would say just in general, our approach was, well, this is someone as a member of the public, not necessarily representing a select board for us to look at this. And so that's why we wanted to talk about it. So that's just
okay, all right,
2 cents from it.
all right, that's great to know, yeah.
Because I didn't bring it under select board concerns.
No. I know.
Richard asked,
Yes.
is there anything else that we should, and I just said, I've had people in town
Yeah,
ask me, are we ever going to consider natural gas? And that's what I just said. So an energy committee, and that was, I just told him what I've heard from the public.
okay,
It wasn't a select board concern.
okay.
So you would take that as you would any other ask from a community member?
That's how I would, yeah. I mean, but I think it's a valid question, and yeah, it seemed like a something that falls under the purview of the energy committee. So, yeah, it made sense to me. But that was my impression, and that seemed to be the impression of. I don't want to speak for anybody else who was there, and maybe Jim has a different interpretation of it because he was at the meeting too. But that was how I viewed it, and that's how I think the committee, broadly speaking, reviewed or took it, and. That's why we had a lot of questions coming out of it, trying to figure out what's the right way to do that and what's our role in facilitating that discussion to I think Ian's point, avoid maybe some of the thornier issues that happened the last time it came up.
Okay, all right, that's fine. So maybe I was overly concerned. I just know that I'm very careful now in terms of what my position is on things and certain asks. I don't want to overstep what I'm allowed to do as a select board member. So that's why I was sort of being more cautious. Okay, well, that's good.
Anything else?
Yeah, that's all I have.
Speaker,
I'm good.
you're good?
I'm not getting into
You're not-
any discussion.
Joel, you
I'm
have
all set.
anything?
I'm all set.
You're all set?
Yep. I'm all set.
Okay, and Michelle,
I'm good.
you're good. The only thing I would add this evening is, I know that they've been out with some patch on the roads. Munsell Avenue in particular, I know, because I drive it every day. And they've been out once already, but if you go down Munsell Avenue, it's the top end, your Thad's is pretty pitted right now. It's been a bit of a minefield going down and about. Joel, you've probably been down there a couple of times.
Couple of times, if you driven Pine Street lately.
Yeah, Pine Street, parts of it.
Is it
yeah.
worse than Pine Street?
Ooh, that's
That's the scale. That's the scale.
Yeah, that's
We're
the
using
scale.
that.
This is all our speed control.
Yeah.
Right,
And
yeah.
it's working.
I will say, yes, that they are driving a little more slowly on all sides of the road. But that's the only thing I have for this evening. Great. Town administrators report.
Just want to draw a little bit of attention to the note in my report about the dog ordinance violation that kind of went flop at the last meeting. That it's planned to be rescheduled for the March 11th. meeting.
You
And
wanna
that,
get out of that one, Darla.
and that will allow time for me to give proper notice to all the parties involved and maybe look into more what our options are in this situation. And I also want to give you an update, if folks had a chance to look at the letter that was sent to the state regarding our water loans that have been hung up for quite a long time. I did get a reply from one of the state officials last week, and another reply this morning, letting us know that the loan applications will be reviewed this week.
Okay.
Repeat.
Good. Well, it's fine. I
Or
read their response and I thought, oh man, Val's letter must have been pretty
You are
pretty
hot.
strong, but it was great. I mean, it was fine, but the way that it was written was really funny in terms of just like, very sorry about this. Yes, and it
Well, the
was good. I
letter
mean,
is
it's,
posted on the
Yeah.
website there.
yeah, it was good. I mean, it's nice to have that response and nice that they're working on it. But it's great.
Well, just for context for folks that hadn't looked at the letters, we submitted the step 2 design phase loan application in June of 2022. Yes, and the loan application for the construction in August of last year. And we still haven't gotten any loan documents, so we can't submit any of the reimbursements because we don't have the loan documents. And meanwhile, we took out a tax anticipation loan that has to be paid back by the end of June to help manage cash flow, because this is all coming out of the general fund temporarily.
Right.
It'll ultimately be shifted to the water department where it belongs, but just as an interim measure, it's coming out of the general fund for cash flow.
Okay.
So I emphasized those things.
Hopefully we'll see that soon.
And that was a year ago, right?
Yeah.
You didn't like that last?
No, I didn't like that laugh.
You mean soon by the end of 2024? That's.
And I want to
soon for them.
acknowledge Jill and Steve's
Tireless.
contributions to the substances of the letters and motivation to write it.
That's great. Well, it worked.
Did work.
That's great.
All right. Anything else? Nope. So other business correspondence reports, correspondence received. We talked a little bit about that. Just anything else in there?
No, just to acknowledge those correspondences, they're under other business. And also I did inquire of Vermont League of Cities and Towns regarding the horse
Yeah.
concern that we received last month.
Mhm.
And so their response is also posted. Basically, you need an ordinance or the person can file civil action. But there's really not a whole lot the select board can do to address that situation.
I mean, I've been reading up and they were discussing this the other morning on a talk show on there's a bill in the legislature right now to raise the fine from $100 for horse out wandering from $10 to $100.
Right.
And I thought that somebody must have attended our meeting. Anyway, I mean,
Yeah.
just,
There are
I mean, I don't know where that
horses
$10, who generates that bill.
I know.
It'll cost more to do that than to take in the money.
Bruce has got a lot of spare time.
No, he doesn't. I don't wanna put it, I don't wanna put it on the police, but it's just, okay, we got a notice. And start hitting them with the $10, I don't care, we set them every day. Send them on. If it runs every day out, send them a $10 one. Then if it goes up to 100, we've set a precedent. Well, we were getting $10 ones. We were paying it. It was cheaper to pay it than pay the fence, repair the fence.
Yeah, I mean, the main thing from the letter that Val mentioned was like the person can probably bring a civil lawsuit to recoup damages to their property. The town doesn't have any ordinance regarding domestic animals, then there's not much the town can do except to use the state laws as described below, so. But I think what we had discussed was sort of updating our animal policy to be more inclusive of other animals.
Right, and we have to think about, be careful what you wish for.
Right.
Because
I
then it
was
needs
just
to be
gonna
dealt
say
with.
that
It
we're
needs to be
getting ourselves
enforced.
into some weeds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's civil suits available and, they can do small claims court, which, the limit is probably within that range, and it's a little cheaper, but I don't know that we want to get into all that.
Your chickens are eating all the grubs off my lawn.
And all the
Maybe
fleas,
the horses can eat them.
fleas and ticks, come on, let them run.
Right.
Or your cat sitting underneath my bird feeder.
Oh, yeah.
Guilty as charged.
Come on, Hawaii has the rooster problem.
All right. Let's see, do we have anything else for executive session?
Yes.
To follow through,
We
yeah.
do. Okay. Somebody want to make a motion? Michelle, want to make your motion?
Sure, I make a motion, we enter into executive session per 1 VSA section 313 to discuss personnel.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Hey, guys.
Bye.
Good night, Jim. Thank you, everyone online.